Hi, Calvin.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good. Morning.
Good morning. I don't know if you see my email, but actually we now have 74 registrations.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
Good crowd. I don't know if everyone's gonna attend. Usually a lot of people register and like 80%-ish kind of attend, so it depends. But I think there'll be a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, that's what our experience has been with the virtuals. It's anywhere from 50 to 70, maybe 80%.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah.
usually we record it so they register and then it's to notify them if they can attend, but they usually watch the recording if they can't. So
Mhm.
Hi, Tanya.
How are
Hi,
you?
Tanya.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, this is good. 73 people. Did any more sign up? Because sometimes we get
74. One just signed up.
usually we'll get one or two
Yeah.
at 10, Sometimes people will email me and say, "What how do I get onto this?" I'll see emails after the fact.
Yeah, I had somebody call me yesterday and they're like, "Oh, can you send the link for the webinar?" I'm like, "Oh, you have to sign up and it sends you a link." So I had to walk her through it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. At least these like virtual presentations, they're really convenient, at least.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, definitely. It's been kind of an adjustment to learn how to get back into person,
Yeah.
for so long and um kind of forget, oh yeah, I need to do that and have backup A and
Yeah.
B and C.
And then crossing your fingers that there's no technical issues.
Yes, yeah. Almost with everything in technology, I almost just expect something,
Yeah.
I'm never disappointed because I just like, yeah, probably something's going to happen, so I can already have my expectations kind of lowered.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, you want to do the share screen, Debbie?
Yeah. Oh, wait, am I sharing screen or are you sharing screen?
You're the host. I
Oh, you
tried to
can
get
share
in and
screen too. The panelists you have the ability to share too. Just so because when you share, then you can control it.
okay, now I can. Yeah.
Okay. It just makes things easier. I actually had someone email me this morning about they said they're interested in learning more about how to best effectively communicate with someone who has cerebral palsy, high functioning, as they're going through early stages of Alzheimer's to better support them. Which I thought was a
The person, it also has cerebral palsy, or the person?
they do. They have it says that person has cerebral palsy, but they're high functioning, while they're also, I guess, going through early
Oh,
stages.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably a lot of the same things. That's a good question though.
Yeah, I think the cerebral palsy or CP would be more physical and an early stage of Alzheimer's. So I think the same um, messages on like communication would be the same.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, first time I've heard of that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised it came through. Like I wasn't really sure how to answer. I hear it's supposed to rain today again.
Oh my goodness. Out in Kapolei last night, it was there was lightning all over the sky, and there was no rain and there was thunder. And my daughter, she's 13. She's a little bit like me. She thinks sometimes the worst. So she woke me up. It was like 11 o'clock. She said, "Mom, come look outside. What's going on here?" She said, "I've never seen anything like this before." And she hadn't. And it was beautiful, but it was kind of eerie,
Yeah, I could see the lightning from where I was, but I couldn't hear any thunder and
Yeah.
no rain.
Yeah. No rain. Yeah.
Yeah, at first I thought I was seeing things. I was like, I swear I seen like a light, and then
That's what, and it was lights. It was so much.
yeah.
And thankfully I'd watched the weather, the news that last night, and I was able to explain to her a little bit of what I heard on the news better, because I'm like, I really don't know what this is either.
Interesting, the kind of weather we get here.
Yeah, definitely. It's not on the mainland.
Usually the west side gets more of that lightning thunder than where I'm at,
Where are you
towards
at, Calvin?
Kaimaki.
Oh, me too. So I'm in Kamaki area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even see like the actual lightning. All I saw I just seen the flashes. I couldn't
Yeah,
see
that's
pictures
what
of actual lightning.
That's what she was saying. She's like, "Mom, there's no like lines, like the lines of the lightning. It's just the line in the sky." She's excited. We're going to Taylor Swift
Oh,
Vegas. She's so excited. And she couldn't sleep anyway last night. So
when is that?
Taylor Swift.
When-
Taylor.
Yeah, when is
Oh,
it?
it's this weekend. So we're leaving
Oh,
or today sometime. I've got to figure out. So yeah, so my husband and her are going to be going to the concert. I'm going to be going, but not to the concert.
gambling.
Yeah. I am just going to go and help her get ready and just be there. I can fly for free because my husband used to work for Southwest.
Oh, nice.
We have free flights up until a year, but yeah, so they're gonna go. He is gonna go with her because I've already been to a Taylor Swift concert. She's such a good entertainer.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be so fun.
So that's what we're doing. She's just she couldn't sleep last night, and that was a lot of her worry and all that. But
Yeah, I wish we could get big name artists from here. Like it's
I
really rare to get.
know, yeah. We went to the Journey.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's old school.
Uh-huh.
And that was fun. Went there and yeah, but like, yeah, I don't think she would ever come here.
Yeah, I doubt it. Chances
Yeah.
are pretty low.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Elvis used to come here every so
That's
often.
true.
Oh,
Did you ever go see him?
No, I knew about. I was young, but yeah,
Yeah.
I remember it was a big thing.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
You're like probably like a little boy then though. Like you're probably were just like, all these.
Yeah, I think probably, I don't know,
Elvis.
Yeah.
middle school age or
Yeah.
something, I just knew it was a big thing.
Yeah.
But your parents probably went though. That was probably more their thing.
Not my parents. No, they
Oh,
were
no.
like pre-war too.
Oh. Okay. I'll wait a couple minutes before we go live. I usually go live around 9:59, 10 o'clock, and then wait a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes for everyone to log in. And then
Yep.
go ahead. Start
So
it.
we normally do the meeting section, not the webinar part. And it's very similar. I guess the only difference is with the webinar, what we're doing today, you can't see.
Yeah. Only
participants.
thing is you can't see them. I mean, you can see the number of people on and their names, but you can't see
Yeah.
their faces and they're on mute.
Yeah,
I mean, you do have the chance to unmute them, but I usually don't just because more people feel more comfortable using chat.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've done the meeting part, haven't went over to the webinar. I think the webinar's good because it does does it do the automatic reminders or
Yes,
you have
it's the webinar that does it. I don't actually do it. So
oh okay,
it sends it
because
out automatically.
that's good because that's something, and with the meeting ones, ours doesn't do the automatic, so we have to go in and do it
Manually do it.
each. Yeah, so it's a little something to think about. So
Yeah, and the webinar one, because you can't see everyone, it's less disruptive. Like if they
yeah,
mute themselves, or you can kind of see what they're doing.
yeah, I know. Yeah, so maybe going forward, I can talk to Ivy and maybe we could do that with the bigger ones, the
Yeah.
smaller ones. Yeah, it's kind of more, it's good to have,
Yeah, and I guess it's like how interactive you want the audience to be too.
well, and then, we found that they're not that interactive usually, so it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
So the chat box is the same though?
Yep. So they can, so if you look on the bottom, there's a chat box. So if they can use a chat box. Some people do, but there's also a Q&A box. So usually I have them type in the questions and then it'll kind of pop up. Like I can monitor it and I can, I'll go over it with you.
Did you want to steer them to one box or the other?
No, I usually save the Q&A. I usually use the Q&A and then we answer the questions at the end.
Okay,
that's good. Because I don't think we have that on the meetings.
no, just
Yeah.
chat.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
I mean, it's almost the same with Q&A. It's a little cleaner.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and mute.
Sure. I just had somebody call. I guess they need help registering, but can't really help them. They're gonna have to watch the recording. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and press start webinar and then we'll go live so everybody can start logging on and then give a couple minutes. Here we go. Start. Okay, we'll give everybody a couple minutes to get settled in. Okay, well, it's 10:02. We can go ahead and get started. I want to make sure we get through the presentation and have some time for Q&A at the end. So good morning. My name is Debbie and I'm the business manager at Navient Hawaii. And before we get started, I'd like to do a brief introduction on Navient Hawaii. So some of you may know us as Hospice Hawaii. We were one of the very first hospice providers in the state, and for 40 years, our name was Hospice Hawaii. Recently, we added a new service line called Integrated Care. As a community organization, we're always looking at different ways to support our patients and families within this community. And a while ago, we had identified a gap of patients who weren't seriously ill enough to qualify for hospice, yet they were in desperate need of additional support. And that is how we developed integrated care. So it's an extra layer of support to help seriously ill patients navigate through the difficult healthcare system, keeping them out of the emergency rooms and hospitals while they continue to receive curative treatment. And because of that, we have changed our name to Navient Hawaii to reflect our broader range of care. So we're the same organization with the same mission, same values, and same people as Hospice Hawaii, just with the new name, Navient Hawaii. And just a little housekeeping before we get started. This webinar will be recorded and will be posted onto our website tomorrow. So if you have any questions during this presentation, please type them into the Q&A box below and we'll save some time at the end to answer those questions. And with that, I will turn it over to Calvin and Tanya from the Alzheimer's Association. Welcome.
Hi, aloha. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are with the Alzheimer's Association. We're so glad to be here online with you, and we have so many services and resources that Calvin's going to talk about at the end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Calvin.
Great. Aloha, everybody. Good morning, and I'm glad to be here. As Debbie mentioned, with formerly Hospice Hawaii and now Navient, I'm most grateful to the organization because for my own personal family, for my mom, the services were well provided. So we were very appreciative of all that was provided. So anyway, I'm a volunteer with the Alzheimer Association Hawaii chapter, and I volunteer in several capacities, one in the advocacy and public policy, but also as a community educator. It's kind of related to my background, about 30 years in long-term care as a administrator in the senior care communities in California and Hawaii. And one reason I really volunteer, not only for my personal connection and family with Alzheimer's and dementia, but also the years of being in senior care. In the year 2000, I was at a community in Northern California, and we opened a memory care program. And memory care typically was for people with Alzheimer's. And I reflect back to 23 years, and you know, the disease has not changed. You know, we know, I think, how to better take care of as caregivers of both family and care facilities of someone with dementia, but also that we still need to move forward and finding the cure and treatment for Alzheimer's. So I'm very passionate to volunteer in this area, so we can one day see the world without Alzheimer's and other dementias. So with that, today we're going to just kind of focus in on effective communication strategies. You know, in Hawaii, when we talk about communication, one is it reflects the big term called malama, which is care, right? We care for each other, whether it's our own family, the uncles and aunties, the neighbor, someone at church, even someone in the store or crossing the street. That, you know, we look out to see how we can help out each other. The other part about communication is that in Hawaii we have this other term, and that's called talk story. You know, so we take time to talk story every evening with family. You know, not only just how the day was going, but you know, about whole different topics. It's a very relaxing approach to communication. But also, you know, in the stores, you often see two people just talking in the aisle because they're enjoying the time communicating and talking story. So with that said, we've got a program today about effective communication, and it will provide today to you about the communication changes that take place throughout the course of this disease, and then also decoding the verbal and behavioral messages delivered by someone with dementia. And some of you may already have that experience, just trying to effectively communicate with your loved one, and then how we respond, how we communicate back to the person. And then the third is the strategies to connect and communicate at each stage. So we're kind of going to go through the stages of the disease and how to best effectively communicate. So here we see a whole bunch of words, and in the middle is communication, but communication has different ways of how we send the message. Body language, and I think we do quite a bit of that here in Hawaii. Our expressions of, by hand or head movement, all that. And then tone of voice. Our universal language here is English, but it's also Pidgin English. So, what is expressed in either the words or the tone, and then how we react to each other, the interaction, our relationships, which then, affects the decision-making, and then, of course, how we listen and facial expressions. So it's all about the two-way sending and receiving messages and how we relate to each other. So we'll kind of go through these, what we call 3 stages, and some others look at more than 3 stages. And the reason why is they kind of bring it down or drill it down further into more like sub-stages. So for our purpose, we're going to talk from the point of view of the early, middle, and late stage. And these are basically the progressions of the Alzheimer's disease and even other dementias as well. So the communication strategies kind of shift from stage to stage. In the early stage, we want to convey our thoughts and feelings through the language, through the spoken language. And then for someone with Alzheimer's at the early stages, to make decisions about future care. It's often a reality for someone with Alzheimer's, whether it's a younger person called early onset Alzheimer's or a senior, but trying to make decisions for themselves about the future care. And then may misinterpret what others say. So it's really important that there's open communication at the early stage. When it progresses to the middle stage, the words and sentences become more basic, meaning that if you run a long string of words into a sentence, it can be a little more difficult for the person with Alzheimer's to comprehend and kind of decipher what the message is. And there might be more reliance on the tone of the voice, the facial expression, and body language. But then, we still need to have that emotional connection, the meaningful activity of being connected. And the late stage or the severe stage is when it becomes even more basic, more familiar words, rather than long sentences, or could be a simple phrase, or even music or songs as a means to communicate. And then the body language, and then our senses. We look at different ways of the senses. Sometimes it's just the touch that can communicate. So changes that can be noticed, and this is from at the home setting. The person may be having more difficulty in finding the right words to say. There might be the hesitancy as they're searching to come out with the words. And with that, could be taking longer to speak or respond. and could be withdrawing from conversation. You know, the uncle or auntie who at family gatherings would always have a story to tell, you know, and talk about the old days, you know, growing up in maybe in Wailuku, Maui, or on Hawaii Island. Those stories that are very fond to them growing up may not happen, or maybe less. So kind of withdrawing, and then struggling with decision making or problem solving. So those kind of things, maybe more in the, say, the husband and wife who you know, would together make decisions, or maybe the wife made certain decisions, a husband would make other decisions as they were in their married life. That may change too, you know. So we have to be aware and conscious of that. It's not something that the person with Alzheimer's is trying to avoid, but it's just how they're able to work through the difficulty of their illness to relating to each other. So we're going to have a short video here by the Alzheimer's Association, who's the associate director of research.
Communicating in the early stages of dementia with the person with the disease is important. At that time, you still have language as a tool, so you can learn things about what they might prefer as the disease progresses. For example, as the disease progresses, a person might have difficulty finding words. Caregivers often struggle to know what to do in that moment. Early on in the disease, you can ask. You can say, you know, if you ever have trouble coming up with a word, would you rather that I jump in and give you the word, or do you want me to wait and allow you some time so you can find it on your own?
So it's important, as she said, you know, to not necessarily take over the conversation, but allow time for the person to verbalize, but, you know, to offer assistance. So that's important, because the person with Alzheimer's, especially at the early stage, may be dealing with their own own self and trying to figure out, you know, what's going on. I've heard the phrase with someone at the early stage that would say, you know, I just can't remember. And it can be frustrating when they say, to come to that realization that they just cannot remember. They want to remember, but they just can't. So the connection to a person with dementia would be to sometimes ask directly how to help with communication. So, you know, offer politely the assistance and saying, you know, how could I help? At the same time, when communicating, keep sentences clear and straightforward. Give you an example of, say, the couple, and they're going to go out, and the wife is a person with dementia or Alzheimer's, is trying to figure out what to wear. They're going to go to the doctor's office and then go have lunch. And, you know, the husband could say, you know, oh, okay, why don't you wear this blouse because we're going to the doctor's, and then, oh, wear this pants, but maybe you want to wear which shoes, the shoes that you wear every day, or do you want to wear the sandals? You know, if it's too much all at once, it can be really hard to for the person to kind of work through all that. So keep sentences clear. You know, so ask one question and then get the answer and then go to the next question. The other thing is patience. And patience is just leaving plenty of time for conversation. It kind of ties back into, you know, how we talk story. When we talk story here in Hawaii, we don't rush through a story, right? We take pauses, and, you know, there could be, you know, conversation back and forth. So, you know, take the time, and then also include the person conversation that affects him or her, including planning for the future. So this is a more direct subject with the person, and talking about some future planning. So this is more at the early onset, when it's first identified, the person has Alzheimer's, that say being in the right moment to talk about it. So it could be maybe during breakfast and talking about, oh, okay, it might be, well, if things change where more help is needed at home, where's the help going to come from? Some families have only the husband and wife, they have no children, or all their adult children live out of state, but they know about a care facility in town that maybe they want to check into. So those kind of things can be talked about. So things to keep in mind. And the first one is, avoid making assumptions. It's something that, I think in human nature we do. Sometimes we make assumptions because we believe that that assumption is right, that it's correct. But, with someone with dementia, because of sometimes the clarity of what is wanting to be communicated may not come out exactly what they want to say, then ourselves, we sometimes make assumptions, but it's a wrong assumption. So we want to kind of, when we converse, maybe confirm what is being communicated. And then speak directly to the person, meaning, if it's a family gathering and, talking about, say, the future care with the husband and wife and the adult children, and talking about mom, we need to address, really the subject is about mom. So keeping her involved, speaking directly in a polite way about, say, the future care. And then the next is communicating in the way that is most comfortable for the person. And I think that just depends on the family or the couple. What's the most effective way? Sometimes it's because, people are out of town, whether by phone or by a virtual meeting, like through Zoom or FaceTime. Sometimes email can help because it gives you the ability to put into words and to organize the thoughts. And of course, in person is always available, when everyone's around. So having that means of communication. And then what says laugh together. So what that means is, what we do in our everyday conversation, there are times we want to, there's something humorous or something that we want to interject that is something to laugh about or to smile or to grin. Always continue to do that, because that really is a relief to know that, although there's, say, the progression of Alzheimer's, there's times when we just need to be relaxed and can laugh together. With that, with honesty and laughing, and we stay connected with each other. But we also want to be, if the time is to be frank, to be straightforward, we want to do that. When we have friends or family, there could be the tendency to pull away because we're not sure how to present ourselves or how to communicate. But as friends or family, it's really important to maintain the connection when someone has dementia. Okay, some changes you may notice. Increased difficulty finding the right words. Once I was with one of the residents where I worked, and we were outside just kind of getting the fresh air, looking down the street, and we saw the blue and white truck, right? In the old days, we called that the mail truck or mailman. So the resident I was with was older, so calling the mail carrier the mailman was what she was familiar with. I said, "Oh, look at the the truck out there, and I think she's delivering the mail. And she wanted to say, "Oh yeah, that's the mailman," but couldn't find those words. The the carrier was walking down the street delivering the mail, and she wanted to say, "Oh yeah, the mailman is putting all the mail in the mailbox," but she couldn't find the words mailman. So I gave her time to see if she could recollect the word, the phrase mailman. But she didn't, so I just said, "Oh, I think what do you think that could be the mailman?" And she acknowledged and said, "Yeah." So with that, she was able to participate in the conversation and confirm, "Yeah, that's the mailman." And then sometimes we need to use familiar words repetitively, and it's not to impress upon the person that, don't forget this word, but familiar words can help. We in Hawaii sometimes use words of many years ago that is maybe the name of the building that we all maybe recollect from what I call the old days. For example, the Alzheimer Association, the Hawaii chapter office is over on Alamana Boulevard. And the building is what we used to call the Gold Bond building, right there, because it was one of the businesses was called Gold Bond. Well, that business hasn't been there in decades, but local people who have been around for years say it's the Gold Bond building. So it's really interesting that those familiar words can just pop up, and people can remember those phrases. Inventing new words to describe familiar things. And the person with Alzheimer's may come up with that. They just can't remember what would be the common word, but may invent new words, or maybe describe the word or the object to convey what they're talking about. So easily losing train of thought. I think we do that normally at times where we're having a conversation and we want to explain something, but we kind of lose our train of thought. But what happens with the stages of Alzheimer's is that it becomes more often. So someone may stop in their conversation because they lose their train of thought. So at that moment, of course, it's not something that they intentionally do. So we need to have the patience and allow time. So maybe the thought will return. But if the person changes the subject, that's okay. We don't need to step in and say, "Wait a minute, you were talking about something and now you're changing the subject." I mean, it's not intentional for the most part. So let's just kind of let it flow and go forward with that. It could also be another change, just not speaking as much, being more quiet, so that's okay as well. Sometimes behavior becomes more prevalent than the words more often. So we kind of need to look at, the signals, whether behavior, whether it's verbal behavior or more physical, trying to express themselves. The important thing is that as these changes are noticed and there seem to be, progressive or more major or sudden changes, be sure that the medical provider is involved. So we'll explain more about how important that is. So this one is going to talk about a caregiver support group for her husband who has Alzheimer's. And caregiver support groups is one of the components we have at the Alzheimer Association here locally. And at the end, I'll kind of touch upon that as well.
I would advise couples, and I usually do advise the caregiver who comes to the group and is caring for a spouse, that you take your time. Always count to 3 before you respond, because it gives you time to think about your answer and what's going on. Generally, in a marital dispute, it's quick. It's back and forth. You're quick to give an answer. When they've been diagnosed, to sit back and say, okay, you're supposed to be the one that's reasonable here. Let's change how we do this, because there's only one thing you can control, and that's you. You cannot control them and their process.
I also wanted to mention, related to checking in with the doctor, is that sometimes medications can affect the person, of course. So we also want to keep in mind that if someone is on medications for whatever reasons, so people have different medical needs that require medications. So it's another reason to consult with the doctor. Okay, so we're going to go more into the middle stage. And, as these changes occur, we need to look at how we do the approach, the communication and approach. So the gentleness is really important, right? Even though in our own personal lives, especially when you're working or you're raising family, taking care of kids, or taking care of kids and parents, we also have to keep in mind, especially as the person goes into more of the middle stage, being gentle. So approaching from the front is important. Sometimes when we're at home in the kitchen and we're trying to have a conversation with, say, someone in the living room, they may hear the voice, but may wonder where's that voice coming from, because again, this is in the middle stage. So taking the time and approaching from the front. There are times when sometimes people will forget who they're talking to. So if that is noticed, you may need to say who you are, especially if you're a friend visiting, and person with Alzheimer's may not remember exactly who you are. So you might have to say, and just say it, very gently. And then also calling the person by their name, maintaining eye contact, and being at the person's eye level. So if someone is sitting on the recliner, sitting across in another chair, so you have that eye contact versus standing above a person. To effectively communicate, avoid criticizing, correcting, and arguing. For example, oh, that shirt you're wearing is so worn out. There's all these pukas in it. Why are you wearing that? Those kind of things can sometimes be construed and be hurtful. So not correcting and saying you need to go change clothes, or arguing with the person. And also our tone of voice, as I mentioned earlier, can play a big difference. And then the last point there is, take the time, take your time to chat. So this person, Rebecca, will talk about, her involvement with her mother.
She could sense my frustration, because occasionally I would lose my patience and I would bark at her. Why are you asking me that question again? I just answered that question 2 minutes ago. And then she would get frustrated because, she was very old school, and she's like, don't disrespect me, and I didn't ask you that question 2 minutes ago. It's a new question. So phase 2 of our relationship was like, okay, that's a new question. I'll answer it again.
She mentioned the word old school. Just to mention, when we talk about old school, we think about, older people or the old days. And once I was talking to a senior, and I mentioned the word old school. Well, it was kind of an expression that, we may use, say, as adults, younger adults or adult children. But the senior didn't quite relate to what old school is, because we're actually talking about, say, that generation. So we need to be careful too that, certain words just may not be in their vocabulary. to connect at this stage is really being in the person's reality. So keeping respect and empathy in our own minds is important. Trying to assess the person's needs. So the needs may be some basic needs, say as hunger or thirst, or they need to go to the bathroom. And so say if you're shopping down at the mall or in the store, and the need to go, bathroom may come up. So, looking and hearing sometimes just through behavior what those needs are, you may need to be aware of that. Let the person know you hear his or her concerns. So, confirming or affirming that you understand the concerns, and those can be expressed through words, behavior, or both. And then, as said earlier, not long drawn out sentences in responding or replying, but give a brief answer, especially in this stage. It's important to try to be as brief as possible, but enough to get the message across. The emotions, communication can be expressed in the emotions that we see. So we need to kind of pay attention to what are those emotions. We know when someone may be looking sad or they're feeling on the happier side. So, look behind, look at those emotions and sometimes confirming. It could be the real nice day. Of course, today here on Oahu, the weather's been rainy, there's been thunder and lightning, and, those emotions of someone maybe, oh, I don't know what's going on today. I keep hearing this noise and it scares me. And so we need to, respond to that. Well, yeah, there's a storm coming by. Everything's okay, so trying to affirm through the emotions that we see. To emphasize again, keeping it slow and basic. Again, the short sentences and basic words. Speaking slowly and clearly. Some people naturally talk fast. And so if that's the case, kind of slowing it down. If you're in the family, if one person talks really fast, or say the neighbor talks real fast and they get frustrated because they're not able to express themselves and be understood. So, mentioning, kind of slow it down, mom just is not able to pick up everything what you're saying. So kind of maybe talk a little bit slower, use, more basic words, and one question at a time. Limit distractions. Nowadays, we have this term called multitasking. And so we're doing multiple things at the same time. It's not unusual for someone to be sitting in front of the computer and be doing work or watching a video, but still have someone in the room, and you're focused on the computer, but you're talking to the person in the room. The person could be your loved one in the middle stage of Alzheimer's. That can be a distraction. You're not having eye contact, or your direction of your voice and face may be at the computer and not towards the recliner where mom is sitting. So kind of look at those, what's going on in the area, and limit those distractions. Again, being patient, taking the time to communicate both ways with patients. And then offering a guess or fill in words if acceptable, without entirely taking over the conversation, but helping out basically in that regard. So when we connect, we can give multiple cues, visual cues, sometimes through hand gesture, or even our facial expression. Some people will acknowledge through how their eyebrow moves. So, everybody communicates a little bit differently. suddenly moving, like jumping, not jumping, but moving quickly in the room. That can be a distraction. There are times when maybe writing things down for the person. I know I had done that for my own mom with to say doctor appointment at 10 a.m. And that would be a short, note um, next to breakfast. So she would look down and say, "Oh, doctor appointment, okay." And then maybe 30 minutes later, may not remember, but then sees the note and says again, "Oh, doctor appointment." She, could have forgotten. So sometimes the written can help. And it was very simple, just to the point. Put answers into your questions, which means that, you may ask a question, but the question may have, the simple answer that you're looking for. So it could be, saying, "Oh, we're going to go shopping today and we're going to go to Walmart. Is that okay? Is going to Walmart okay?" Maybe that would be the better question. So, you're asking a question about going shopping, but then also specifying location. Repeating is okay. Because again, if the person forgets and they say, "I don't know, I don't remember," it's okay to give the same answer again. I've had once, the family will say, "I keep telling my mom the same, she asks the same question over and over, and it's every 5 minutes. And what do I tell her?" And my response was, "Mom just doesn't remember, that's part of her condition. So giving her the same answer is okay. And but doing it politely, not to say, 'Gee, I just told you that 5 minutes ago, but oh, yes, you know, uh, your niece's wedding is next month.' It's okay to repeat that, because if the question is the same, just give the same answer. Turning negatives into positive. That could involve a little more thinking through, um, a negative situation into turning it into a positive. So it could be, say, mom with dementia may know that her older brother has cancer and is not doing too well. And so she asks the question, "How is my brother Jim doing? I know he has cancer." And so, your response, knowing that maybe he's not doing too well, can be something like, "Yeah, um, Jim's okay, and he's got a lot of family around to, help him out." So, take away, the focus of the negative, but, to let her know that, there's a lot of family around. And then lastly is avoid quizzing. We may do that, trying to get the answer by asking a bunch of questions. And that can be really overwhelming when there's, say, 3, 4 questions, one after the other. That quizzing or answer seeking gets too overwhelming, and just it can be very frustrating. Also, a way to connect is responding empathetically and reassurance. Join the person's reality. What I call a person's reality is in the moment. In the moment can vary from one day to the next day, to the morning, to the afternoon, to the evening, because as the changes occur in the brain, there's not a textbook pattern of those changes during the whole month or during the week. The person's reality can change. So we need to know that it's in the moment, and respond accordingly in that person's moment or their reality. With that said, being reassuring that you hear and understand, and focus on the feelings, not the facts. The fact, of how they're expressing due to the illness, but more so on the feelings, how they're feeling, and how we can provide comfort. Again, going back to the word I said at the very first, malama, how we care, to know that there's someone that has the caring toward the person that has the illness. There are times when we need to validate and redirect the person if necessary. And so redirection, again, would come with empathy and with reassurance. Redirecting means sometimes to changing the subject. So it could be something that's happening during the evening. There's a term called sundowning, where someone with Alzheimer's in the evening, and it's related to the sun setting, how we know about the day and night, where the behaviors increase, more the anxiety might happen at night. So we may need to spend a little more time redirecting. Um, there's times when in the evening, the person may feel that it's dark outside and there's bad people that are going to come in the house. So they're going to lock up all the doors, close all the windows. And it could be the most humid day in the summer and we want to keep the windows open. But the windows get all closed because of the fear of someone breaking in. So that's when redirection may be necessary. No, mom, I have all the doors locked. Let's just open this several windows here because we need the breeze. And look, this will help cool us off. And let's have a cold beverage to help cool us off, or have a little bit of ice cream. Those kind of things. Redirecting to something more pleasant. Other changes that you may notice is that the words are more reduced to a few words or sounds. So again, this is as the disease progresses, and responses to familiar words or phrases can happen as well. So how we connect. Listening for the expressions of pain, because the words may not come out. My back hurts or my leg hurts. So kind of look for those expressions of pain. And facial pain usually is pretty evident for most people. So you can say, you're sitting down and let's stand up, and the person refuses, and you notice that when they do stand, there's a grimace. So kind of pay attention to those expressions of pain. Maybe it could be arthritis that the person has, so they need to have their arm massage or their wrist. And then, the positiveness, help the person feel safe and happy, and continuing the respect, and keep connection through talking, and then use all 5 senses to communicate. And with that, the sense of smell. In Hawaii, we have so many different, wonderful the smells of the outdoors. So it could be the smell of a flower, whether it's a plumeria or a pikake, or the freshness of recent rainfall. So, those kind of senses. And what we see outside could be the rainbow, something as simple as a rainbow. And what we see is, wow, that's so beautiful. So using the 5 senses can be important to provide that comfort of being happy, or seeing something really pleasant. So Sandra will talk about the mother's later stages of Alzheimer's.
I know that my mom feels aggravated. I know that she feels alone. I know that she feels confused, and I know on any given day, I don't know if I've made it better for her. I try. In these later stages, I've come to recognize that being really aware of the 5 senses is really important. Touch seems to give her a great deal of comfort. I know when I come over, I'm going to brush her hair all the time. My husband noted to me recently, he said, you should see the look on your mom's face when you're brushing her hair. She's just happy. She's just happy. She doesn't say a lot. And I do it for a long period of time. I comb it, I braid it, I do funny things with it, but it just allows me to just be with her in a way that makes her feel comfortable.
So going further into our five senses, touch could be different fabrics. And if you're, with a senior and you look in their clothes closet, they may have a whole assortment of clothing. So whether it's a silk type fabric to an aloha shirt that's have different textures over the years, shirt styles change or blouses change. So that can be brought into the conversation. And that also may bring back memories. So mom may have a moo from the 1960s, a very long moo dress that, oh yeah, I remember wearing that to the niece's wedding. That may bring back memories. Also, shapes by touch. Fruits are a good example. We have so many fruits here in Hawaii and other fruits that we may have for breakfast. So, say having a basket on the table with the papaya and the orange and the apple, touching those can kind of bring back the sense of, oh yeah, that mango, I love mangoes and I used to pick the mangoes and have conversation about that. Our simple thing like hand lotion, the touching the hand over hand and putting some lotion on can be very soothing. It might, another is identifying everyday items in a bag by touch. So as someone in the latter stage of Alzheimer's, the touch of something in a bag. Again, there's so many things you could put in a bag. It could be a fruit, a vegetable, a hairbrush, they all have different touches. And someone could say, put their hand in the bag and say, oh yeah, I feel something that seems to be like my hairbrush. Animals, what we call pet visits in the care homes or care facilities, animals that come over, or the neighbor that has a small dog and is a very friendly small dog. So Auntie comes over with her small dog and is very friendly, and so touching the animal can be very relaxing. Some like to do things that are more arts and crafts kind of things. So could be a clay type item, or drawing colors, or putting together a card with shapes and gluing it on. Those kind of activities too. That's through touch. And then simply holding the person's hand, or a light massage can also be relaxing. The important thing is to look at the response. If you see the person drawing back, you also kind of need to shift and do a different activity. How we see and what we see. First, sometimes in the more advanced stage of Alzheimer's, the scope of vision may change, where, if we look in the room, we see from left to right, up and down. But the person with Alzheimer's, sometimes that scope of vision kind of narrows. And it's not that their vision is necessarily changing, but the brain's ability to look at the big picture may change. So we have to be aware of that. But colored pictures, say from a magazine, or now, just on an iPad, looking at different pictures of, say, scenes of Japan or New York City, and person may have visited there. So going through those different kind of pictures. And then there's also the videos of animals, nature, or travel, photo albums, the actual pictures that are in albums of family or friends, famous paintings, so many things. It could be also just going out and having an activity, going outside and sitting under the park, going to Kapilani Park, or to just a neighborhood park, sitting outside under a tree, on the bench. Other activities, watercolors, all the different colors that can be used when you're doing those kind of paintings. And of course, just sitting anywhere, looking at another area. Sound, listening to familiar music. There's very valid understanding that music is one part of the brain that can be retrieved. So music that someone grew up with that is relaxing to them. So as our generations change, from say someone that grew up in the 50s to 60s to 70s, the music changes, the genre changes. So finding out, what kind of music did Auntie like to listen to? And then playing those musics, that can be very relaxing. Musical instruments could be the ukulele, just playing live music or just strumming can be relaxing. And for people that maybe were born and raised in another country, those songs of their country that they came from, maybe also something that would be relaxing. Others can be just reading from a book or poetry, scripture, religious scripture, or just newspaper articles. So again, being gentle in the tone of voice is important. The next is smell. As I mentioned earlier, different smells, not only the flowers, but herbs or spices. I mean, there's essential oils. Sometimes it's just the outdoor grass clippings or flowers. Even the brewing of coffee can be a very relaxing. And then fragrances. And then cooking food, that's something in Hawaii we really, participate in and saying, wow, that smells good. I know what we're cooking. We're having beef stew tonight. And again, more examples of food, the favorite foods, desserts, home-baked things. So to recap, joining the person's reality to connect, understand, and accept what you can and cannot change. Remember that the person retains a sense of self, and despite the losses of the disease, we want to be respectful and connect through feelings and treat the person that we want to be treated as. We take time to decode how communication is occurring, and there's the mood and actions. Understanding the source of reactions. Again, that means understanding, as we have explained today, the course of the disease from the early, middle to the latter stages. Here's another speaker.
Taking care of yourself while you care for somebody with the disease not only impacts your own health, but it really can impact the person with the disease. So for example, if you're not getting enough sleep, you might be easily irritated, which will then sort of spill over to your interactions with the person with the disease and maybe being short with them, which then might cause them to get frustrated. So it's not only important to take care of yourself for your own health, but really for you to really be a good caregiver.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up here, and we have a few minutes after this wrap up for some question and answers. But the Alzheimer's Association, to go on the internet, where you can start to find a lot of resources, is alz.org. That's the website. And you'll find things like Alzheimer Navigator, which helps you navigate through from, wanting to know where to start. And then the resources in the community, the Alzheimer Connected. There's also a caregiver center and a safety center. So start there. You can kind of just click and see what's there. And then, oh, that sounds interesting. I want to learn more. We also have a 24/7 helpline. Sometimes when you're a caregiver, you need help at 2 a.m. There are professionals who answer this phone line, 800-272-3900. And then for locally, alz.org/find us, the Hawaii chapter has a section in that website that you can go to. And that way you can connect with Tanya and other staff on support groups, educational materials, and other sessions like this one. And then there's also online training, again, starting at the training.alz.org. Real quick, we have other activities which you may have heard about. We have a walk to end Alzheimer's on every island. We have in June a program called The Longest Day, and this is to help bring awareness and to help people locally through any fundraising effort to help our local people. And then we have what we call advocacy. I mentioned that one thing I'm involved with, and that's to work with our lawmakers to know that we have a need here in the community. The people in the community with Alzheimer's need some help from our government. And trial match is when there are discoveries of new medications or trials to participate in those. So again, here's that 800 number again. And I'm just going to open it up for questions that Debbie will help facilitate.
Thanks, Calvin. That was a great presentation. So much information. Let's look at questions. What a fabulous speaker, Calvin. Well done. Mahalo, Bonjour, Paris.
You're so welcome.
Okay, here's one. A single female sibling, 70-year-old, is exhibiting paranoia and delusional behavior. Is this a symptom of early dementia? What stage? How do we go about having her see a physician? She's very stubborn and will adamantly refuse to go and might possibly not communicate or trust us.
That question I've heard of, and it comes up from time to time. Sometimes someone they don't like to go to the doctor's office for anything. But also, those behaviors that are noticed, it could be the early signs of Alzheimer or another dementia, but it could also be something else. So with that type of situation, as the person said, being stubborn or just doesn't want to cooperate or going to the doctor. I've had sometimes families say, oh, I know how mom is going to behave and refuses to go. But one time they said, well, they planned out, they had the appointment made and said, oh, I have to go, meaning say the sister or daughter, I have an appointment, so we're going to go to my doctor appointment first, and then we're going to go have lunch. And so the focus was the lunch, so where does sister like to eat? So it was already prearranged with the doctor's office that it's not the appointment for herself, but for mom to be seen by the doctor. So they would all go in together, and the doctor would already be cued that, was to have, some conversation and awareness of how mom is doing. So that's one way to do it. We all want to, be as gentle as possible and not say there's a crisis and need to go to the emergency room, but, we kind of orchestrate it, and there's different ways to do it. For more techniques, depending on individual situations, probably calling into Tanya or others at the Alzheimer's Association office to kind of go over what's going on and maybe to give some other advice.
Thanks. Here's another one. How important is it for someone to be diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's? Who can give the diagnosis?
Excellent question. And that's something that on my advocacy side, we've been working with our members of Congress under what they have covered under Medicare. So that's, the insurance for older adults. And that is called care planning. So what we strongly advocate for is that Medicare coverage for care planning is covered from day one when the patient goes to see the doctor and the doctor identifies the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, that a care plan is developed. So what a care plan is basically, say for the coming year, this is what we're going to do. Identify resources. Sometimes it's first starts with the medical, right? Looking at if anything else is going on, having lab tests done, doctor just, getting a really good picture of how things are going socially, but also medically through those type of lab work or testing. And then having periodic check-ins with the patient over the course of the years, and the feedback is really important. So the caregivers, whether someone's in a care home or living at home with family help, that feedback is really important. And when I was, in the field or in working with seniors and in the care home setting, that's one of the first questions the doctor would ask is, how are things going day to day? Because they realize too, if they ask, the doctor asked the patient, how are you doing? And especially our local people, even though their back hurts or they can't walk too well, and the doctor says, how are you doing? Well, they're going to say, doctor, everything is good. I'm fine. Because we don't like to complain sometimes here in Hawaii. So having that feedback from others around is really important. And then the doctor can, again, work on their care plan.
Great. It's 11:02, but let's squeeze in one last question if it's okay with you. Can a person with early stage dementia still drive?
Boy, that's another great question. Safety is really important. And trying to take away or suggesting to take away the car keys for dad may not always go too well. So it's going to mean conversation, at home. It could be also with the doctor, but the doctors they're not there to determine the ability to drive, right? They're going to be looking at the person's, say, cognition, and the person's, maybe it's physical, maybe they have rheumatoid arthritis and cannot move or turn their shift to the right or left. So those kind of things doctor can comment on. There are, I've heard of whole various situations where, some not going too well, like hiding the keys, that can cause more frustration, disabling the car. It's really a case by case basis, and just being reasonable too. Sometimes the person is in the moment to say, yeah, I understand. I don't want to hurt somebody driving. So case by case, but yeah, that's an important question to raise.
Thank you. And I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Calvin and Tanya. That was such great information. Always a great time having Alzheimer's Association present.
Well, mahalo to you and to everybody on today's Zoom. Glad to be here and glad to be working with everyone at Navian.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And just a reminder, this webinar is recorded. So if you want to reference it, it'll be posted on our website by tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.